The map of endless horizons. In the peaceful village of Millbrook, where autumn leaves danced gently through cobblestone streets and old lampposts cast warm pools of light in the evening, there lived a librarian named Eleanor Clark. Her small cottage sat at the edge of the village, surrounded by a garden where lavender swayed in the breeze and morning glories climbed up weathered trellises. Eleanor spent her days among towering shelves of books, helping visitors find their next adventure between pages, all while dreaming of having her own. On this particular autumn morning, as golden sunlight filtered through stained glass windows and dust motes sparkled in the air, Eleanor decided to take a different route to work. The morning air carried the scent of freshly baked bread and brewing coffee as she walked past the familiar shops that lined the village square. Something caught her attention. A new shop had appeared where old Mr. Peterson's hardware store used to be. The shop window displayed an assortment of curious items: brass telescopes, leather-bound journals, and intricate wooden boxes. A hand-painted sign above the door read, "Timeless Treasures, Curiosities." Eleanor felt drawn to the weathered wooden door, and the small brass bell above it chimed softly as she stepped inside. The interior of the shop held the warmth of aged wood and the subtle fragrance of old books and polished brass. Shelves reached toward the ceiling, filled with items that seemed to whisper stories of distant lands and forgotten times. Behind the counter stood an elderly gentleman with kind eyes and silver hair, wearing a deep purple vest with golden buttons. And so, the map continued its work, not just as a guide to magical places, but as a reminder that magic itself was woven into the very fabric of everyday life. Eleanor's greatest joy became helping others discover this truth for themselves, watching their eyes light up with wonder as they began to see the world as she now saw it, a place where the ordinary and extraordinary dance together in an endless, beautiful pattern, creating magic in every moment and every place, waiting only to be discovered by those who remembered how to dream. The true power of the map wasn't in taking people to magical realms, but in helping them see that they had always lived in one. When Eleanor returned to Millbrook, she found Theodore waiting by the fountain. His eyes twinkled as he shared that he had once been a waykeeper himself, and that he had opened his shop in Millbrook knowing the map would find its way to the right person. He had recognized in Eleanor the perfect combination of wisdom, wonder, and kindness needed to be a guardian of these special places. As winter settled over Millbrook, Eleanor continued her work at the library while quietly watching over the village's magical connections. She began leaving small clues for others to find, arranging books in special patterns, placing particular objects in the library windows, and telling stories that helped others glimpse the magic that surrounded them. The map remained her constant companion, occasionally revealing new paths and places, but Eleanor came to understand that its greatest gift hadn't been the magical locations it showed her. Instead, it had taught her to see her ordinary world with extraordinary eyes. Every sunrise held the beauty of the Tower of Dawn's first light, every garden contained echoes of the meadow of midnight sun, and every story told in her library carried whispers from the Library of Seasons. On quiet evenings, Eleanor would sit in her cottage, watching the stars emerge while the map glowed softly on her desk. She understood now that the greatest journeys weren't always about traveling to distant magical realms. Sometimes, the most wonderful discoveries came from learning to see the magic in coming home, to recognize that the most extraordinary horizons could be found in the hearts and minds of those around us, waiting only for someone to help them remember how to look. As she approached the fountain, she noticed that the water caught the light in unusual ways, creating patterns that matched the intricate designs on her map. The map grew warm in her hands, revealing new words, where wishes meet wisdom, truth flows like water." Eleanor gently touched the fountain's surface, and the water began to glow with a soft, pearl-like luminescence. The world shifted around her, and she found herself in the caverns of echo memory. The caverns were vast chambers where memories floated like soap bubbles, each containing fragments of Millbrook's history. Eleanor saw the village as it had been centuries ago, watched the library being built stone by stone, and witnessed countless small moments of joy and wonder that had shaped her home into what it was today. A figure emerged from the gentle darkness, an elderly woman named Iris, whose eyes held the wisdom of ages. She explained that the caverns of echo memory preserved the heart of every place they connected to, keeping safe the moments that made each location special. Through these memories, the magic of places like the Library of Seasons remained strong. Iris revealed that Millbrook had always been more than just a village. It was a nexus point where the ordinary and extraordinary naturally met. The map wasn't just showing Eleanor magical places, it was teaching her to see the magic that had always existed in her home. Every book in her library, every cobblestone in the streets, every leaf in her garden held traces of this ancient wonder. As Eleanor spent time in the caverns, she began to understand that her role wasn't just to explore these magical places. She was meant to help others recognize the extraordinary in their everyday lives. The magical places it revealed had always existed alongside the ordinary world. The map didn't create these wonders, it simply helped people remember how to see them. The real magic lay in learning to recognize the extraordinary within the seemingly ordinary. As Eleanor stepped back through the archway into the familiar reading garden, she found that everything looked slightly different. The ivy on the library walls seemed to whisper ancient secrets, and the afternoon light held traces of the Library of Seasons' ethereal glow. She realized that her perception had been forever changed. She now saw the world as a place where magic and reality danced together in an endless, beautiful pattern. In the weeks that followed her first magical journey, Eleanor discovered that her role as keeper of the map brought subtle changes to her daily life. The books in her library seemed to arrange themselves in new ways, guiding curious readers to exactly the stories they needed. Children who visited the library would sometimes pause and stare in wonder at corners where the ordinary world grew thin, as if they could sense the magic that Eleanor now knew existed there. On a misty morning, when autumn was slowly giving way to winter, the map revealed another secret. Delicate golden lines appeared, tracing a path from Eleanor's cottage to the village square. The map showed an illustration of the old fountain at the center of the square, but instead of its usual weathered stone appearance, it was depicted with streams of light flowing from its basin. Following the map's guidance, Eleanor walked to the fountain just as evening approached. The setting sun painted the clouds in shades of purple and gold, and the first stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. An elderly librarian, who introduced herself as Marigold, approached Eleanor. Her robes shifted colors like the aurora borealis, and her silver hair was adorned with tiny, glowing bookmarks. Marigold explained that this library existed between realities, collecting stories not just from different places, but from different possibilities. As Eleanor explored the Library of Seasons, she discovered books that told stories of her own village, but from different times and different possibilities. She learned of the hidden magic that had always flowed beneath the streets of Millbrook, of the ancient pact that had created places like this library, and of the network of extraordinary locations that the map could reveal. Marigold shared that the map had once belonged to a group of explorers known as the Waykeepers, who had dedicated themselves to maintaining the balance between the ordinary world and these magical realms. Now, it seemed, the map had chosen Eleanor to continue their legacy, starting with the Library of Seasons. As the day drew to a close in this timeless space, Marigold presented Eleanor with a special bookmark made of shifting starlight. This would allow her to return to the Library of Seasons whenever she wished, marking her as a friend of this extraordinary place. Eleanor noticed that the map had changed again, now showing other mysterious locations connected to Millbrook, the Caverns of Echo Memory, the Meadow of Midnight Sun, and the Tower of Dawn's First Light. Before guiding Eleanor back to the reading garden, Marigold shared an important truth about the map's power. But today, Eleanor noticed something different about the old reading garden behind the building. The iron gate that led to it, usually plain and weathered, now bore intricate patterns that seemed to match markings she had seen on the map. During her lunch break, Eleanor ventured into the reading garden. The usual sounds of the village seemed to fade away, replaced by a gentle humming that reminded her of distant wind chimes. As she unfolded the map, she noticed that the illustration of Millbrook had shifted, revealing a hidden path that started precisely where she stood. Following the map's guidance, Eleanor walked to the ancient oak tree that had stood in the garden for generations. The tree's massive trunk now revealed a subtle archway, visible only from certain angles, its edges traced with the same silvery light she had seen that morning. The map grew warm in her hands, and words appeared across its surface, through Wisdom's Gate, where stories meet wonder. Taking a deep breath, Eleanor stepped through the archway. The world around her shifted like pages turning in a book, and she found herself in a place that defied ordinary description. She had entered what the map labeled as the Library of Seasons, a vast space where countless books floated gently through the air, their pages fluttering like butterfly wings. The library seemed to exist in all seasons at once. In one corner, snow fell softly between bookshelves but never reached the ground. In another, cherry blossoms drifted eternally through beams of spring sunlight. Summer warmth radiated from a collection of leather-bound volumes, while nearby, autumn leaves spiraled endlessly around towers of ancient texts. Small words appeared near her cottage on the map, written in elegant script: "The journey begins where comfort meets curiosity." Eleanor felt her heart flutter with excitement as she realized that her ordinary life in Millbrook was about to become something quite extraordinary. The map seemed to pulse gently in her hands, as if acknowledging her readiness for the adventure that awaited. As night fell over Millbrook, casting long shadows across Eleanor's garden, she carefully placed the map in a drawer of her desk. That night, she dreamed of pathways that twisted through enchanted forests and bridges that crossed seas of stars. The map had awakened something within her, a sense of wonder that had been dormant for far too long. Little did Eleanor know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would not only lead her to magical realms but would also guide her to discover the extraordinary magic that had been within her all along. As she drifted off to sleep, the map in her drawer continued to glow softly, its ancient magic preparing to reveal the first of many wonderful secrets that would change her life forever. The next morning, Eleanor woke to find her garden bathed in a peculiar silvery light, though the sun had already risen high in the sky. The map on her desk seemed to respond to this unusual illumination, its edges glowing with the same ethereal shimmer. As she prepared for her day at the library, she carefully tucked the map into her leather satchel, feeling somehow certain that she would need it. The library stood as it always had, its stone walls covered in ivy that had turned brilliant shades of crimson and gold with the autumn weather. He informed Eleanor that his name was Theodore Morgan, and he had recently moved to Millbrook to open his shop of collected treasures. As Eleanor explored the shop, her fingers trailing along shelves of curious items, she found herself drawn to a section of old maps. Among them, partially hidden behind a globe, she discovered a peculiar piece of parchment. Unlike the other yellowed maps, this one seemed to shimmer faintly in the shop's warm lighting. The parchment felt unusually warm to her touch, and the ink seemed to shift ever so slightly as she examined it. Theodore appeared beside her, his eyes twinkling with knowledge of something wonderful. He explained that the map had been in his possession for many years, waiting for the right person to discover it. The map showed their village of Millbrook at its center, but the surrounding areas were unlike any Eleanor had ever seen on conventional maps. Instead of familiar town names and roads, there were illustrations of mysterious forests, crystal lakes, and mountains that seemed to touch the clouds. Eleanor noticed small words appearing and fading along the edges of the map, as if the parchment itself was breathing with ancient magic. Theodore shared that the map had ways of revealing its secrets to those who approached it with an open heart and curious mind. He believed the map had chosen Eleanor, and offered it to her for a surprisingly modest sum. That evening, as Eleanor sat in her favorite reading chair by the window, a cup of chamomile tea steaming beside her, she studied the map more closely. The parchment gave off a subtle warmth, and the drawings seemed more vivid than they had in the shop. As she traced her finger along the intricate paths leading from Millbrook, she noticed something extraordinary. The map began to glow with a soft, golden light.